from this photographer friend of mine, Tom Allen, who's a still life photographer, and he just decided to do this goofy project where he'd go to his local Goodwill and buy like the stupid, shittiest Christmas objects that they had for sale and do the 12 tacky days of Christmas. And he was sending me these things, and I'm like, this is kismet. Somehow this is all meant to be. So one of the figures was this China figure of this little girl with a wreath, and she's freaking out over something. We cannot know, and so there it is. You know, better not cry, little girl, with your little wreath. So Augustine actually said, you know what? I'm not so crazy about this. I really want it to be mean. I want it to be really mean. And I said, okay, we can do mean. And so I went back to Tom, and I selected one of his other things, which was this sort of Santa Claus candy jar, and the candy jar was his sack. And so he changed it, and he filled it with figures of people. And I said, well, I think we're getting there. But instead of that, why don't we go to weapons? You know, like from G.I. Joe, etc. And now we're closer, I think, but let's bring back the little girl. And Augustine was like, I love this. Love it. Loving, loving, loving. Go with God. So send it to the art director at St. Martin's Press, his publisher. And about a week goes by and you don't hear anything, which is always a bad sign. And finally he gets back to me and he says, well, we think it's too mean. Of course you do. And he said, the other thing is, we literally had a 10-minute discussion in the marketing meeting about whether or not Santa is showing little girl his penis. And I'm thinking, what, the guns aren't enough for you? But what I said was, did they want him to? And he said, no, they didn't, frankly. So now we have to start over, and I'm freaking out, and I'm thinking, oh shit, what else do people do at the holidays that's like fucked up? And this would seem to be the answer. You see people in New York with these crazy fucking dogs running around, like dressed up like Santa Claus, and it's like, okay, that's dopey. But I was spurred on by this by a set of images that were sent to me about a year earlier. These are Easter images, but it's like, what celebrates our risen Lord more than clamping a pair of ears onto your cap? Bunny ears. Right. Or turning it into a lamb. Or the best ever, slapping on the quacky hat. Yeah. Oh yes. He is risen. But of course, this is the wrong holiday, so now I have to do more research for Christmas. And so the key is, of course, to make the pet look as miserable as possible. So, I mean, you know, I have visions of the photographer being like mauled to death, like right before he snapped those. Love this because it reminds me of the Grinch. But this guy really, really looks like he's just about to burst into tears. But the best one ever that looks really angry is this. And weirdly, Augustine actually owns like a big old bulldog thing. And so this reportedly was going to be it. And he's like, I think this is going to work. And then again, like I send it off to the publisher, and like 3 weeks went by, and no word, and you just know you are so fucked. And basically, eventually he wrote back and said, yeah, we solved it in-house, just send a kill fee. Shit, man. So So I have absolutely no idea what this is going to look like, so we can all be surprised. All right, this is a very recent one. I haven't presented this yet. So I don't know if anybody knows who Paul Rudnick is, but you probably saw the Addams Family movies. Did anyone see them or not see them? He wrote them. This guy is great. He's done a lot more other than that. He's actually really big in the theater in New York. And so he's writing this series of humorous essays about his life. And he constantly using this phrase, I shudder. Oh, I shudder. And it's something his mother says when she's thinking about John McCain. Oh, I shudder. Oh. And so, and you know, Paul is extremely out, you know. So I'm sort of researching images that are going to embrace this concept. And actually, this one is from somewhere in Texas. It might even be in Houston. This is a wax museum, actually. And, you know, there's Dorothy and Toto, but obviously the wax dummy of Toto has slipped. And so now he sort of looks like he's dead or simply shuddering. So, you know, I thought, come on, this is so perfect. And I sent it off to the art director, and then like a day later he's like, everybody laughed, it's too gay. Right, fucking homophobes. So this was a real long shot, I know, but again, you know, I was looking at these images that have just the right sensibility of, you know, like this arch width, but like not too over the top. This was my favorite. This is at the Museum of Natural History in New York. This charming couple in one of the dioramas, and they're like, "You've got to be kidding! No boobies." I thought these people were adorable. The subhead is "and other reactions to life, death in New Jersey." So this is somewhere in deepest New Jersey, and the editor-in-chief was sort of like, "Well, I like it, but the type isn't funny enough." It's like, there, hardy fucking hard. And so he liked it, but the editor of the book didn't like it. And it's just so frustrating when you're working with like an entity where you're kept at a remove, that I thought we were almost there with this. And so I went back and I read the manuscript. I always read the book. Rudnick writes regularly for the New Yorker, so I've read all of his New Yorker pieces, and so I basically thought, all right, I've read the book. And I went back and finished the manuscript and realized that I hadn't read all of it, and he does this whole discourse on eating these dreadful things for Easter. Marshmallow peeps. He lives on these things. And it's so weird, because when you meet him, he's like rail thin. It's like, buddy, figure out how to sell that, because how can you eat these dreadful marshmallow peeps and stay so thin? But he does, and so he goes on about these, and I called up the art director and I said, we got to do the peeps, and he's like, we actually talked about it, but we just think it's going to look too silly and stupid. And I said, can I just give it a shot? And he said, sure. And so we get the peeps. Meanwhile, it's like 2 weeks after Easter. Now you try and find fucking peeps 2 weeks after Easter. Luckily we live in New York, where it's Easter all year round. And so, now we did one where it's just the one, but then I said, no, let's like rip one off and then do a set of them. And so now it seems to actually mean something. And he, this is a really good book. This is coming out in the fall, and he does a whole discourse on all his friends dying of AIDS in the 80s and 90s, and it's incredible, incredibly moving. And now it starts to mean something about like, you're next. And it's not just about a peep anymore. But if you just see it on the shelf, it's like, oh, that's pretty, it's yellow and blue. And then if you start to examine it more, then you find out what it means, and it actually does mean something. So that's going to come out in the fall. And